Hi, and welcome to Calculus Examples. I'm Dr. Finch. Today we're looking at an example where we're approximating the square root of 36.1. Now that looks really awful, doesn't it? A lot of work. And how are we going to use calculus for that? Oof. We're going to go dive into a definition. I'm going to abbreviate that DEFN. And we're going to look at the linearization of f at a. Now, this is a fancy pants way of saying we're going to approximate using some stuff that we do know to get something that's close to something we don't know. So this equation that I'm writing here is the linearization of f at a. So what that means is that we're getting a linear formula for that particular, what's going on with that situation there. And to apply this problem, what we're going to do is we're going to have two parts to it. First of all, we want to figure out what we want to use as our particular function, and then we want to figure out what we want for our x and for our a. Now we know that we want our approximation to be of 36.1. And our function is going to be always what seems to be exactly what it should be. In this case, it's the square root of x. So you want to look and, okay, if we're looking at this equation here, it's the square root of something. And so we're going to use that as our function. Our term inside, the 36.1, that's going to be the x. That's what we actually want. But notice all of this linearization stuff here. We have to know what f of a is, f prime of a. And so what we want to do in that case is we want to set an a value that's easy to work with and calculate. So that should be the one that's closest to usually a whole number or something that you can work with nicely. So in this case, our a is equal to 36. And now we can just find this information, plug it into our equation, and we are going to be good to go. If you appreciate examples, explanations like this, please subscribe. All right, let's go with our function. We need to know, we're going to be looking for L of x, so L of 36.1. So the first thing that we need to do is find our f of a, right? Let's do that. F of a is f of 36, which is the square root of 36, which is going to be just a plain old 6. So we can just pop that in for our first term in there. Second thing that we need is an f prime of a. So let's find f prime of x. We are going to take our power down. Remember, our square roots are actually x to the 1/2. Subtract 1 to our new power. And then we are going to pop in our 36 into our solution there. So we have 1/2 over 36 to the negative 1/2. And that looks really nasty until we rewrite it 1 over 36. And now we're taking the square root in the denominator. So square root of 36, as we saw, is 1/6. So that gives us 1/12. Pop that number into our linearization. And next up, we have our x, which we saw was 36.1, minus our a, which is 36. All right, now all we have to do is the math here. 36.1 minus 36. And I'm going to turn that into a fraction. That is 1/10, because that is going to make our lives a little bit easier. So that is 1 over 120. And if we get a common denominator, 6 times 120, so that is going to be 720 plus 120. So our solution is 721 over 1/20th, and that is our approximation for the square root of 36.1. It's not exact, but it's a good approximation. If you are asked to approximate a number of some sort, this is the method that your teacher is asking you to do it with. Thank you so much for listening.